Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. It's nice to sew with you today. Today I'm using what I have to make a bag. I didn't have to go to the store, and I'm making it similar to the size bag I've been carrying, so I just looked at that bag and kind of made it similar. I'm using some old pants cut into 6-inch squares, an old belt, and of course some fabric. So let's get started. The first thing I did when making my bag was to kind of decorate all of those 6-inch squares. They are cut from old pants, like I mentioned, and I need, for the bag I'm making, I need 15 squares. I wanted to do something with these squares that was a little subtle. I know some of you may have decorative stitches on your machine, or you might prefer something that's brighter, more colorful. I wanted to do something kind of muted, so I used black thread on these 6-inch squares. I had fun coming up with a different design for every square, and you can see all they are lines. Some I started in the middle and went through the corner to corner, and others I veered off to the right or left and just made it sort of off center. And some just have lines going one way and some have lines going the other way. I think it's going to be a fun addition to my bag. After getting all of my squares decorated, I pulled my belt out, and my belt I cut 36 inches long, leaving the buckle. And some people may not want a buckle in the middle of their handle, but I thought that would be kind of fun. Then I laid out my squares 3 by 5. I sewed them together in rows of 3, and then I put all of those rows together. I pressed my bag. It's, like I said, 3 by 5, and then I chose a lining fabric, and I needed about a ½ a yard. I put the right sides together, and I'm just using the outside of my bag as my pattern, and I did cut the lining a little bit bigger than the bag itself. Just gave me a little wiggle room, and I did use my scissors. It was easy to do. After getting the lining cut, I need to put each piece together at the sides. I'm going to sew the sides together on the bag, right sides together, and then I will sew the lining right sides together just on the sides. At this point, your bag and your lining should be exactly the same size on the top. You saw I didn't measure, but I laid them together and just double checked that the seams match. And then I left an opening in the side of my lining. I forgot to mention that. There's an opening on the bottom, and you'll see that kind of became a problem when I got to putting everything together, but I managed to fix it. I liked having the opening down there on the bottom, but you're going to see in a minute that it created a little bit of a challenge. Then I put the lining inside, but I had to remember to put the right sides next to the right sides. So we're looking at the wrong side of the lining right now. Then I cut my belt 36 inches long. That's the size I wanted. And I'm going to tuck that in between the lining and the bag. And since my belt does have a right side, I want the right side of the belt to face the outside of my bag. And when I have it all sewn together, you will see that the right side of the belt is in the right place. So I'm going to pin the belt on either side of the bag. I want it to hang out just a little bit. Might give it a little bit more stability. And then I am going to sew all the way around my bag and all the way through those handles, the ends of the handles. Now I will turn it right side out, and this is just me double checking that everything is where it's supposed to be, because I will need to turn it wrong side out again in just a minute. I'll check and make sure the belt is where I want it to be, and make sure I have all the seams together. And we could leave it just like this, but I want to square up the corners of the bag on the bottom. So I turned it wrong side out again, and to make those square corners, I folded sort of a little triangle on either side of the bag and sewed across that triangle. It's about 2 inches away from the corner, but I didn't measure. I wanted it to land in a good spot. With all those seams, I really didn't want to end up with a problem with a seam. And then I did the same thing for the lining, but since my opening is over on that other corner, I'm going to have to do a little bit different way of getting that corner to square up, to be that box corner. There's one, there's the other, and next step is to close up the lining. So I'll pull the lining out, and I'm going to close up that hole. I'm just going to top stitch along the edge. I could pin that, but I didn't. I just tried to sew as close to the edge as I could. And now this is where I need to make that triangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck it in on this one, and there will be a seam. So there it is again. I'm going to tuck it in and sew straight across. And if you can imagine a triangle being inside of that fold so that it matches the other one. And no one will be looking to see my seam. Then I pressed a little bit all the way around the bag up there on the top, because I want to top stitch and I want the lining to stay inside. The last thing to do is to top stitch the top of the bag. So I'm going to pin and make sure everything is smooth. I really like how this is coming out. Those lines in that denim fabric are kind of a subtle design element that I really like. So I'm going to stitch all the way around the top, and this bag will be ready to go. A really easy way to reuse, repurpose, use what you have. You wouldn't have to use a belt for the handle. There's all kinds of different, handle options, whether it's webbing or use your imagination and make something fun. It is a very rewarding to use things that you already have or use things that were going to be going to Goodwill to make yourself a fun bag. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.